We're going to show you how to correctly install one of the Dorman manifolds, 615-180. There is a correct way to install this and an incorrect way to install it. First things first, we're going to get the package out. I'm going to show you what the kit entails. We're going to show you one of the failures of this kit. When you get your kit out, you're going to notice it's wrapped up. Go ahead and take it apart. For now, you can just kick this off to the side. I just want to talk about what's in the kit. You're going to get O-rings to redo your fuel injection. We're not. These ones look good. But yours are bad. It's time to replace them. Okay, depending on your year of 3.8, you're going to have some gaskets you're going to have to install. So you're going to have to make sure, look carefully what you tore apart, because you're going to have to make sure in your kit you put it back together. Right now we're going to kick the O-rings off to the side. I want to get to the main part of this story, which is going to be the Egr issue. Okay, in your kit, there's an Egr Delete kind that you have to do. We're called the bushing insert. But if you do not do this and you try to pound the aftermarket on, you will break it, and it will break bad. You'll never seal your engine. Alright, so there's two different size bushings here, and we'll get to that in a sec, but you have to install these. You have to take the original GM Egr bushing out. Let's show you that now. Okay, on the original GM intake manifold, there's a tube here. You need to take this out. This has to be deleted. You cannot use the aftermarket Dorman intake with this tube in place. So you're going to want to simply grab a pair of pliers, and depending, you might even have to grab a pair of vice grips. But it pops right out. The reason why there's two in the kit, because GM had two different lower intake manifolds. As you see, that one fits. I'll show you this other one that does not. Don't do that. Okay, so you got to size that to what you take out. This one's going to be the permanently bigger. At this point, the instructions are going to state that you've got the red Loctite, your bushing, whether you use the bigger one or the smaller one. You want to get some good old red Loctite, the stuff that you actually have to literally heat up to get off, because this is going to have inert gas run through it, and it's going to be hot, at least 400 to 600 degrees. And you don't want this thing coming off, because this comes off, that gas that comes through here is going to be like the Challenger, like when the rocket motor blew up. It's going to be the same principle. It's going to burn through your manifold, and you're going to have this problem again. You've got to use red Loctite for this job. And you're going to put kind of a liberal amount here. I don't want this piece coming out ever again. If it needs to come out, it's going to need a flame. And what I do is I just run my fingers around it just to make sure we get a nice, good, even coating. I don't care if it's messy. This one needs to be messy. Let's clean up the bottom. The bottom doesn't matter, it's the sides you want to make sure get nailed good. So there's a nice good coating. Now I wonder why Dorman, if it was so important for them to have this red Loctite, why didn't they put a coating on it? But I'm not going to complain. Anyway, let's go ahead and stab this in now. Go ahead and hit it pretty good. And the other thing it says is you got to stake it. Oh, I was trying to think the best way to stake this, because you don't want it turning in place either, because of the engine harmonics. Centrifugal force will want to make it spin on its axis. So you got to stake it. And it says at 8 o'clock. So I'm going to take a chisel here and I'm just going to stake it. $4 o'clock, and then 12 o'clock. Okay. Now clean up your metal so no metal gets in your engine. Make sure you use a shop vac. Clean out all your ports and surfaces before you do your intake install. We're going to do that now. Now as you're putting this in, you're going to realize it's a little tight because it is the aftermarket, and it does have to fit a little bit different than the original OEM to not get a patent lawsuit. We're going to go over the torquing procedure for this intake manifold here in a quick sec, and it is precise. So in the kit, you could have an orange one or you could have a blue one. We're going to use the blue one here because it is ribbed. It'll help the gasket stay in place. You know, most of the time you want to go back to your OEM and get this gasket, but I think in this case, because it's Dorman 2 GM, it'll be okay. Might have actually a little more pickup too, at least on the bottom end. Well, on the top end too, because that's why they changed the size and runners.
I like this one much better. It's actually going to stay in there.
Yeah. Okay, at this point you want to make sure that you clean your bolts and you use blue Loctite. Not red, blue. Because if you ever have to take this intake off again, you don't want to do it with red because you'll have to burn it. That's why we used it on the EGR tube. It's the only part in this process where red gets used. Blue gets used for everything else, or white for intake thread sealant.
All these bolts should go in by hand.
Yeah, their final torque is 89 inch-pounds, but their pre-torque, there's 3 steps Dorman wants you to go through to do this correctly, so we're going to follow it to the T. And after I go into the junkyard and seeing all those manifolds that got ripped up for no apparent reason, part of it is just, I think, thinking of this. I took it off, I didn't have to mess with it. I should be able to put this part back on and not have to mess with it. But what people don't understand, and these are DIYers, is the fact that, you know, when you do these kind of fixes with aftermarket parts, sometimes there's extra work or adaptions that have to be made. And if you fail to do those adaptions, you just destroy your part, and pretty much you have to do this again, and next time it might cost you the engine. She got lucky here this time, but there's enough of these in the junkyard with bent rods on the bottom that probably have this exact problem.
Yeah, this intake is definitely a little bit taller.
Let's hope the injection fits on. First thing I'm going to do is I'm just going to run them down by hand with a little bit more tool. This is a very crucial phase in this repair. This is where things can go wrong and you get a vacuum leak. We'll go over the torque procedure here in a sec, but I just want to get this started to run down a little bit. Alright folks, here's the crucial part. Failure to do this is going to crack this manifold. So I'm just letting you look at it now. We're going to go through this. Well, how I do these 3 passes is I'm going to go through with my finger torque first for 22. Then I'm going to take a wrench. I'm going to go quarter pass, and then my torque wrench, I can get it to read 7.3 pounds, and you've really got to know the feeling of your torque wrench so you don't crack this manifold, because it is a dry manifold. It is a very light torque manifold, but you can get vacuum leaks or crack this thing if you don't follow these, like it says, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and 10. Yep. And there's, right here on this bolt, that's going to be a 10 deep, and the rest of these are going to be an 8 short. You don't want to use a deep socket when you're doing this. You don't want to bind your bolt. You want it just to go down. Alright, let's get started. So the first tool I'm going to use is going to be this. I'm going to get it hand tight. That's going to represent 22. And we're going to start with 1 in the back. Basically, you're going to run out of resistance. That's going to represent 22. And you're going to realize as you do this, it's going to want to loosen up on you. And that's okay, because that's why they do this in 3 passes. Alright, go to 3. As you've seen, this is starting to suck down. Go to 4. Okay, now go to 5. 6 is the long one here. 7. 8 directly across. Okay. 9 by the PCV valve. And then 10. Alright, there's our first pass, 22 estimated. I mean, eventually we're going to have to get one of them fancy $500 torque readers, but I've done this enough. You know, most mechanics who are qualified and done this for a long time will tell you the same thing. Although I do believe on these kind of jobs, I mean, you got to be as God accurate as you can, because yeah, one loose bolt will get you a vacuum leak, will get you a very upset customer. Okay, next one we're going to go through. It's going to be 44 inch-pounds. As you see, I'm using a bigger wrench. I'm going to have my hand here. I'm not going to have it back here. Do not have it back here. 44 is going to be a little bit of turn and then stop. This is going to get tight real quick. Alright, let's go to 1. It's kind of like a reverse W. Let's see. Get 6, go to 7. That's going to be our deep. Yeah, 7's the only one that requires a 10 deep. Alright, now we go to 8. 9. 'Alright, torque wrench time. Alright, starting back at 1. Kind of doing a little bit at a time, playing with this one by ear, because I haven't quite heard that magic click yet. Let's try to see if I can't get it to give me a click on 4 pounds. The first one that felt good to me. Still no clicky yet. You definitely don't want to overdrive these down. There we go. Yeah, I do not like that. Grabbed a different wrench with a little less leverage on it, because this is one of those things, less is more and more is definitely too much. Yeah, see how see, that's much better. Use your fingers. Your fingers will tell you. This motor is more about brains versus bronze. You know, you over tighten things in this motor and things break. There we go. It's starting to feel like it should. This 3.8 is going to be running very, very soon. Alright, let's go to 7. Alright, that feels good. 88 inch-pounds. If I were you, if you're going to keep one of these cars and you're going to work on it for a period of time, go spend the money for the tool. I mean, you can get by without it, but I've done this stuff for almost 25 years, so I've learned my lesson about broken bolts and correct torque procedures and all that good stuff a long, long time ago. Alright folks, that concludes the torquing segment of the 3.8 Dorman replacement intake manifold.